Isn't focusing on self-love selfish? No, my friends, it is not selfish if you are coming from it from the correct way of thinking. For me, I know I have to inspire self love every day because it's more than just a selfish thing. For me, it's literally almost a stepping stone into this battle of life so that I know that I am worthy, that I am capable of handling my life's challenges, to know that I've been saved by the Creator, by God, by Jesus, whatever you want to call it, the universe, spirit, Yahweh, it's all love, right? And so when I started my journey to inspire self love, I didn't love myself. I hardly loved myself. In fact, I was more selfish by making choices out of that place of lack and out of the need for validation. I made so many more selfish choices when I was in that phase of my life. And so now I am here to share with you my journey today and why today I feel extra special and why I need to share it. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Tania Manuel. I'm a relationship coach and self love because I believe that when we're able to focus on ourselves, we'll be able to have more confidence in our life, have more abundance, joy, and be able to start cultivating healthy relationships as we start to figure out who we are, why we deserve to be loved, and most importantly, to break away from the toxic relationships in our lives, whether that's with friends, a partner, a spouse, an ex spouse, a toxic relationship with yourself. I know for me, I was extremely toxic in very several ways with all of those people that I just listed in different ways. Sometimes I still find myself navigating those challenges, but that's what this journey is about. It's about learning who you are and what those triggers are that trigger you because we've all lived experiences, and take those triggers back and say, okay, so what about that experience is giving me grief, is giving me hurt, is giving me pain and sorrow? What about the life I've lived until now do I need to look back onto and reflect to see where I can heal myself, where I can have some self acceptance, where I can perhaps end a little bit of denial and take time to love myself, to give myself grace. So, back to what I was kind of saying, like, isn't it selfish? I don't think so, because for me, the inspire self love thought comes from how I need to love myself the way my creator loves me. Okay? It's so important to know that we are loved here on this world. And the thing is that some of us, especially myself, stopped caring about who we are, stopped caring about our personhood, believed that it was better to sacrifice our own needs, our own wants, our own desires for a fantasy that we thought we had, thought we needed. I always try to say this quote, this poem. It's not even a quote, it's a poem that I wrote, and I need to practice saying it out loud. So I'm going to practice with you today. It's called Dreaming a Fantasy. The perfect fairy tale beginning, hiding all the lies in fantasy. It was but a dream until it was the living nightmare of reality. That was my little poem that I wrote almost 2 years ago because 6 years ago today I made a life changing choice out of my own selfish desires that I'm thankful for today because it did catalyst me into the life that has created who I am today, right? We're here, we are loved, we are worthy, we make choices. Sometimes we have negative outcomes and consequences from our choices, and sometimes we have positive ones. I know for me, I felt like at first that everything I made was a bad choice and it was the wrong decision, and like how could I have decided to forego my needs and make the choices that I made. So 6 years ago today, I walked down the aisle with somebody that I just should not have walked down the aisle with. I know it's really hard to say, and I don't really admit it very often because I was extremely prideful at the time that this happened, which was a toxic trait of mine especially back then, right? Like I feel like I've worked a lot of through my pride now, but we probably all have I know I have some work to do on all fronts all the time, so it comes through sometimes. But right now, we're talking about how 6 years ago, I guess tomorrow, I woke up realizing, like, wow, I just made one of the worst choices I could have made in choosing the person and the partner that I thought I was going to be with for the rest of my life. And by thought, I mean I thought, right? I thought that, like, the beautiful words that didn't make me feel beautiful because were filled with a lot of manipulation. Now that I look back, you know, a lot of empty promises and like, how do I say it? A lot of, you know, words that were, like I said, were pretty, that would help me to, you know, move through time. And now I'm getting, sorry, I'm distracted. It took me a while to really think about that I had made a bad choice that next day after I woke up, saying, wow, I might have just made one of the worst choices I could have made in my life by choosing to walk down the aisle with this person, because we had talked about so many things and created so many visions for ourselves, but all of the ones that we had already talked about were not lining up to be truth, right? It was fake, it was a fantasy, it wasn't actually what we were speaking into existence wasn't actually being brought into existence. So I was selfish in choosing to continue a relationship with what I was doing, and it was very difficult and painful to finally realize that it wasn't going to work. So instead of being sad about that choice, I am now empowering myself to love myself through that, and to remember that today I'm celebrating my freedom, because I could have been trapped. I could have been stuck living a life I didn't want to live, stuck in my own toxicity, stuck in forgetting all my needs and desires, and just giving up on my dreams. I literally was not anything that I should have been doing at that time, right? And it took me a long time to figure that out. It took me a few years to figure out that I was very unhappy in the situation that we were bringing about. And then it took some domestic violence to really separate myself from that situation, to say, hey, this is not something I agreed to. You know, like, nobody agrees when you walk down the aisle and say I do to being ever physically unsafe in your own home. Like, we don't agree to that. Um, and you shouldn't agree to that. Like, there is a domestic hotline for those of you that may need help. So I'll make sure to put that in the comments, in the description, because we deserve better than that, right? So that's the key, is if I am loving myself how the Creator loves me, then I won't tolerate that type of behavior. I won't tolerate allowing people to mistreat me, to abuse me, you know, to just do these nasty things to us. I will have more self-respect than to allow that to continue in my life, whether or not it's an easy thing or to do, because usually it's actually really hard to do, right? It's really difficult to say, hey, I don't like the way that makes me feel, please don't do that again. I don't know about you guys, but for me, I used to always get met with resistance, right? Like, oh, you're just too sensitive. Oh, well, you are this too. Like, whether for me, it was a lot of deflection, a lot of like, oh, well, if you weren't doing this, then I wouldn't be doing this. And it's like, no, honey, you get to be your own person. You get to do your own thing. We don't deserve to be mistreated by anybody. So that's one of the first things I wanted just to say. Like, inspiring self-love is about loving yourself like how the universe itself would love you in return. I think I'm gonna probably have to cut my video short, so let's see, what would I want to say most of all? That I do this every day because the darkness in the world, the evil, like the anger, the frustrations in this world bring us back. It tries to pull us back every moment of every day if we allow it. And so that's why I want to encourage you to inspire self-love and join me on the journey, because I know that you deserve to live a beautiful, magnificent, and wonderful life. I had to restart this because I had to relocate to her time. So same day, same moment, just different times, different settings. So what I was saying is that For me, inspiring self love is an everyday situation, it's an everyday occurrence, it's an everyday thought because that darkness that calls to me all of the time, every day. Like sometimes it could be just somebody saying one silly thing about how they think of me or what their opinion of me is, or how they think I shouldn't wear something specific or do something specific. But that's just not the way it is. It's our journey to discover what brings us joy and what brings us hardship and difficulties. That's why I'm here to encourage you to start this journey to inspire self love. I know how worthy you are to live an amazing, beautiful, and joyful life because I am. I used to not feel that way when I first started my journey to inspire self love. I felt everything except for worthy and deserving and beautiful and loved. I just felt like a fake. I felt like an imposter. I felt like I had given up everything in my life to get to where I had been, and it was kind of a really crappy situation and part of my life. So today I celebrate the fact that I am no longer married to a person that just wasn't a good fit for me. I tried to, share my story to the sense that it's not that that person particularly is a horrible person, right? Like, that's not my goal. Like, he's his own person. I love him in his own way, that he is the man that helped me bring my beautiful, amazing daughter into this world with. But there's things from that time that I learned. And those things that I learned sound ugly. And they were ugly, and they kind of continue to be ugly sometimes. But my goal is to help you, woman warrior, to know that you don't deserve to be in that place anymore. You don't deserve to be belittled, shamed, made feel guilty, made feel like you're not enough because of who you are. And sure, there was some things that I speak to and things like that, and the points are that I was just as toxic in that time, in that relationship. Like I said, I was selfish by continuing to move forward into a relationship, a committed relationship, and bring a beautiful child into this world with somebody that just didn't align with my morals, didn't align with my values, didn't align with my actual everyday actions that I wanted to take, that I wanted to be living. And I had to learn that lesson the hard way. So, women warrior, maybe you're here because you're wondering, like, why should I inspire self-love? Like, why inspire self-love, right? Like I mentioned, to me, it begins with love, with what our Creator would want us to be. Because once you're able to fill yourself up with the amazing connections of the universe, you get to be opened up. You get to be healed. You get to start embracing your authentic self, to be goofy, to be silly, to be passionate, to be joyful, to feel alive in this world. So for me, it led me here to this mission to say, hey, you're not alone here on this world, feeling like you're not enough, feeling like you'll never be enough, not feeling good enough because you're not alone. I'm here to cheer you on, to encourage you, to uplift you, to remind you that you were never alone. Even now, maybe you're watching this on a screen because, I'm filming this for you too, so that's kind of silly of me to say, but like maybe you're watching this on your screen at home alone. Maybe you're watching this on a screen and you're surrounded by people. But even if you are just like alone, it's not that you're alone, you're just by yourself. I know that the universe, the creator, what I like to call God and Jesus, is always with me. And when I didn't foster that spirituality, I always felt so alone. So that's one of the biggest things that I think I want to say in this video is that it's not selfish to take care of yourself. It's not selfish to meet your needs. It's not selfish to ask the people around you to help meet those needs. It's a request, and you can make a lot of requests of the people around you because any good person, any person that really loved you would want to fulfill those requests if they were capable. And if they weren't, then they would tell you, hey, like that doesn't work for me, right? Like, how can we meet in the middle? They would want to communicate, right? You making those requests is also allowing you to speak your own boundaries and your own needs in a relationship, whether that's with yourself or with a partner or with friends. And it's very important to think of those things as you start your journey to inspire self-love. Like for me, it all began with like, what are my values? I didn't even know what my values were. Like I remember learning about what values were in high school, but I didn't ever remember being like, okay, I believe in this and this and this and this. For me, I believe in spirituality, love, growth. What are the other two? Travel. I really love to travel. And what's my last one? And family. Family should be higher up there on the list. Love, growth, family, travel, and spirituality. Those are my top 5. Of course, there's more values that I try to embody and that I try to embrace. But when you get to really embrace who you are, including the bad days. Like, no joke, I was crying downstairs not long ago for like that loss, right? Like that loss of the relationship, for the fact that we could have been celebrating an anniversary. And like I said, thank goodness we are not, because that was just a very toxic place. It's still kind of toxic. Like, I wish I could be a friendlier, more loving person towards this person. However, I don't accept being manipulated anymore. I don't accept being disrespected anymore. I don't accept the way that he still chooses to speak to me. So for me, that means less contact, less words, and I will continue to pray that maybe one day we will get to be in a better place for the benefit of my daughter. But in the meantime, I know that it makes a difference to have my daughter safe with me in a place where there's not constant fights, where there's not constant tension, resentment, anger, some of the toxic habits that we had both been doing in that time. Like, those things are all positive in the long run. And I hope that by loving myself, by having these new defined boundaries within myself and self-respect and self-worth, that someday I'll be able to find, well, not find, because I know the universe is working on my perfect partner somewhere, but that I'll be able to be ready, that I'll be able to cultivate and develop a relationship that actually is worth it, that actually is worth my time, my investment of energy, my loyalty, my service. Like, I loved being a wife. I thought it was very fun. I enjoyed the partnership and the closeness between me and my person at the time. And I love being a mom. And sometimes I think like I had to really learn that being a mom is more than just bearing a child, right? Like, I need to be able to be my own best self when I'm with her. And admittedly, I wasn't my best self when I chose to have a child with this person. I was selfish. I was selfish in wanting to have a child. I was feeling like I was getting old. I felt like, well, I've been with this person for this much time. Like, isn't that what's next? And she saved me. For sure, she saved me, because otherwise I would probably still be allowing that mistreatment of myself, right? I would be staying quiet. I would be filled with anger, resentment, frustration for expressing my needs and then being told that I wasn't entitled to have those needs or desires. We all can only identify what we need and what we want and desire, and nobody else gets to tell you that. And that was one of the things that I didn't realize, that I had built my life around things that a lot of people had told me, right? Like, what little girl doesn't grow up being told like, oh, you need to get married, you need to be a wife, have children, right? I mean, sure, I got told like, be a doctor, go to school, get college, get educated, right? And I did some of those things, and I didn't do some of those things. Okay, I didn't do a lot of those things, but I'm still living life today. I'm still being joyful. I'm still trying to figure myself out, because this world is about growth. This time is about growth. When you start the journey to inspire self-love, it's for you, so that you can find who you're created to be, not what you have been told to be or anything like that. So I just want to thank you for being here, for joining me here on my channel, or being, just part of my world. I am so excited and thrilled. We've been doing our Women Warriors Wednesdays for a while now, and to welcome you into the group. So if you are a woman warrior and you want to join us on this mission to inspire self-love, Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also join us in my private Facebook group, Inspire Self-Love Women Warriors, and I'll drop the link in the description so that we can talk about self-love and different topics about self-love together and encourage each other and find a place to be vulnerable so that we can express our needs, desires, and to share those things with each other and to remind you that you deserve something better. You don't need to be tolerating disrespect or abusive situations because you're not taking care of yourself, because you're allowing that to happen. Sometimes we don't even know we're allowing it to happen, right? Like for me, I know I didn't. So thank you for your time. God bless. And don't forget to check out the link and subscribe below.